Hercules. Generally, we only talk about Barcelona, and that's what we have done from the day this channel has started. But we thought we are both football fans, and we obviously watched the games and Euro was happening. So last time when the World Cup was happening, we had contemplated it, but then, it was like, could we do it? Could we commit to it or what have you? And then we said, nah, you know what? We'll stick to Barca. This time, again, the question came up and we said, you know what? Let's try. We won't be able to cover all the games, but at least some of them. We do want to try.
Something new for us, something exciting, and we are really looking forward to it. So here goes. I'm from Croatia originally. I don't live there just now, but I am from Croatia and I'm still Croatian. So it was a tough game to watch, even though the scoreline was bad. It was 3-0, obviously. But I still feel that even though the Croatian media is going crazy just now, they're saying, okay, Croatia have been disastrous. Spain have outplayed Croatia in every single part of the game. You know how it goes, right? It's the classic thing that happens in every media once you lose 3-0 or in a bad result. But I don't feel it was that bad, right? Okay, Spain might have been a bit superior to Croatia, but I feel like the scoreline is a bit misleading, so to speak, because this game, yes, it's a fair representation of Spain's power or what they can do with Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams and all these players. They have differential players up top, but at the same time, they expose a lot of weaknesses, which, to be fair to Croatia, even though they don't have the profile, they don't really have the players to hurt this Spain, they still managed to create a lot and they managed to create for at least a couple of goals, but just wouldn't it wasn't to be, and I'm really sad about that. But it also wasn't a disaster. The scoreline might suggest so, but I feel like if you go into it a bit more tactically, structurally, statistically, even, which I'm sure we'll get to, I don't think this was a steamroll of a game, even though at first, when you see the result, you might think so, Div.
Oh, I agree with you because if you see the game, like Spain came out of the tracks pretty fast. Like the first 10, 15 minutes, it was just Spain. Like Croatia could barely get a minute on the ball. And then around about the 15-minute mark, Croatia started. They could control the midfield better. And I think De La Fuente still has to think about the midfield. I know Fabian Ruiz played very well and Pedri was okay. Between the 15th and the 30th minute, the ascendancy was with Croatia. So both the teams have seen each other. They're getting a feel of the ball. They're getting a feel of the tempo of the game. And at that moment, if they could have capitalized, yes. Now Kukureya's pass and then the subsequent through ball to Morata that created the goal. Obviously, that can happen in a rapid counter. So that was a goal on a counter, right? That was Spain defending when a goal happened. And then immediately the goal after that was Ruiz. I don't think Ruiz is going to score a goal like that very soon again. That was really a well constructed goal. He took out Modric, he took out a couple of players. I think Yamal and Pedri also played their role, but it was a goal made by Ruiz. And that's it. You get two goals on the bounce in 5 minutes. Any momentum is going to affect. And that's what happened. And even with that, I think if you look at the whole game, I think Croatia still created at least 3 or 4 chances. One of them goes in, right, at that time, and the game changes. And that's what football is. Football is a game of like inches, right? Everybody's doing master classes right now. What I will say, however, is Croatia did look, and I know you're Croatian, and I'm sorry about that. And I know because when it's your country losing you, nobody feels good. And I feel that. But I did feel that the defense was really all over the place for Croatia, whether it was a personnel thing or whether they need to do something to shore it up. I did feel that it was a little bit like they did not, like the second goal that happened, that was just, they had players in the box. There were lots of players in the box, right? So that shouldn't have happened, but it did, right? Maybe for Dalic, that's the coach. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe for Dalic, that the question is, what does he do to shore up the defense? Especially against Italy, because I think it'll be almost a must-win game for Croatia, the next one.
Oh, it is. Oh, it is. Next one is Albania, even. And they did show, Albania showed where they did scare Italy a little bit with that early goal today. They did lose in the end, but now Croatia, with that deficit, with 3-0, so the goal differential, it's huge. So they have to win against Albania. And they'll have to win against Italy as well. And to answer kind of your question with the defense, yeah, I think the first thing Dalic will be looking to do is to move Guardiola back to center back. So Guardiola was the left back now, and that is something that Dalic has been talking about a lot. We've seen Guardiola left back even at City. He can play there. There is some utility with Guardiola on the left side because he can carry the ball forward and he can put the ball into the box and when necessary. But this wasn't that time because the way you attack the Spain is with legs, with the pace and physicality. And Croatia, they just don't have those they don't have those profiles. When you look at the Croatian squad, they do have a nice blend of youth and experience, but also you have the experienced players to kind of back them up. What you don't have is diversity of profiles. So you do have players that are very technical, strong on the ball. They need the ball at their feet. They need to control the ball, but they don't really have that pace to run at you. The dribblers out wide and players who can disrupt the defensive lines in that way. And I felt like that was really missing to hurt this Spain because there was space to be exploited. There was a lot of space, in fact. In between the lines, out wide, you name it. There was space, but Croatia just couldn't get there at all. And part of that problem is the profiles. It's as simple as that. And then when you have midfielders like Kovacic, Brozovic, and Modric, yes, they can retain the ball. Yes, they will recycle it to control possession. But that's a number six that's very deep in the defensive line, ahead of the back line or between the center backs. And they have two low eights, so Kovacic and Modric who drop deep. And what happens is you don't have anyone in that little box just ahead of the position penalty area. So in that zone 14, there is no one. Because you have Meyer who can come inside and occupy that area, but generally he doesn't because he was more of a winger, which doesn't really suit him. And besides, he was also quite deep himself. So Croatia just didn't have anyone to connect those areas of the pitch and attack through those channels. And I feel like that is something that Dalic needs to work out because I would rather have Kovacic and Modric or Brozovic and Modric deep and then have someone like a number 10, like Meyer, in those areas, in those zones, just ahead of that midfield or just below the opposition's penalty area. And that's where you create a lot of threat from. I just didn't see that tonight. It was still good. There was still something, just wasn't enough. Not even close.
And I think
Yeah.
point Guardiola being on the flank and not in the center of the defense, I think that didn't really work out that well because I didn't understand Guardiola's impact on the game at all.
Yeah.
I watched it.
Maybe.
Maybe to your point, bringing back Guardiola at the center of the defense is not a bad idea from that perspective. What do Croatia do with teams, right, who are willing to give up possession? Like this Spain is not Luis Enrique's Spain. With De La Fuente, it's far more direct. It's far more vertical. Yeah, 47% possession to 53% of Croatia. So 53% of the time Croatia had the ball, but they couldn't do anything with it. As classic Barca problem as well. We have all the possession in the world, but we cannot score half the time, at least 10 years. So as you think about Italy and Italy's penchant of holding back, what do you think Croatia has to do to have a more attacking impetus or playing on the counter?
The reason for the long balls is there's a couple of reasons actually, three in total. First one is Livakovic as a goalkeeper for Croatia. He's a pure shot stopper, right? He does not play well with his feet. That means that if the ball goes to Livakovic and Croatia are trying to play out of the back, more often than not, he will just hoof it forward. Especially, and this is reason number two, if you have Budimir up top, because Budimir is the aerial presence. He is the target man. Number three is when you move Guardiol to the left back position, and then now you have Šutalo and Pogacic. Šutalo is very good on the ball, right? He is very good on the ball. And Pogacic is also not bad on the ball, but they didn't have a good night, right? That progression from the back, which is usually solid and very effective, was just flat tonight. Okay, so without Brozovic and Kovacic and Modric dropping deep and taking the ball and moving it forward, it didn't really happen that well, right? Those are the three reasons why Croatia went long often to avoid the Spain counter pressing and the high pressing. Now, what do they need to do? Croatia actually create a lot of chances statistically against other teams in the last calendar year, actually. They take a lot of shots. They take a lot of touches inside the penalty area. They create high XG chances, but they don't score the goals. That's the issue. They might suffocate you on the ball, but they will not score 2, 3, 4, 5 goals on you. Sometimes it is just about bad finishing. So that cannot be avoided. They have one pure number 9, which is Budimir, and the rest are hybrids of sorts that often play out of possession because we've seen Kram on the wings, we've seen Meyer very wide. That's not where you want those players, right? The other thing would be the zone 14 occupation because Croatia have that gaping hole I talked about. They need to have players in those golden areas a bit more because from there, you have access to the box, you have access to shoot or pass. Usually, Croatia are very narrow in the first phase. They expand and they go into for crosses. That's how they do everything all the time. There is no central occupation there. So I would say that needs to be fixed. along with players actually playing in their positions and then having some lungs, some dribbling and stuff like that on the wings as well.
Just to add on to what you said, I'll share with you some numbers, which
Mm.
is very interesting. And that will tell, at least from a data point of view,
Yeah.
how the results are so mismatched. Expected goals, Croatia 2.48 to Spain's 1.91, right? Big chances, Spain 4, Croatia 3. Total shots, Spain 11, Croatia 16. Passes, Croatia 518 to Spain's 457. Free kicks, Croatia 13 to Spain's 11, right? Touches in the penalty zone. Croatia
Hmm.
26 to Spain's 20. Through balls, 1:1. Shots inside the box, Croatia 10 to Spain's 8. If you look into all these parameters, Croatia has a better numerical advantage in almost everything. And yet the result is what it is. It's not that they didn't get into scoring opportunities or zone. There are touches. And 26 touches not yielding a single goal. Does Croatia have a goal scorer, bona fide goal scorer, who we can count upon a nine, who can go and finish these chances off?
Probably not. Probably not. That's the thing. So ever since Mandzukic left the national team, we've not really replaced him. That was the last big goal scorer that we had. And now you have different profiles of number nine. So you have Petkovic, you have Kramaric, you have Budimir, and all those players can play. They are all a type of number nine, but they're not really prolific goal scorers, right? Budimir is someone who can control his frame really well inside the box. He can score in multiple ways, in the air, on the ground, but he's not someone who will score 20, 30 goals. It's not who he is, right? I don't think that we can count on him to be that superhero that we need, right? Petkovic can be, but Petkovic is a bit like if he wakes up and he's I don't feel like it, he'll just play like crap. If he wakes up and he's I feel great, he will be the best player on the pitch. That's how Petkovic works. That's Petkovic for you. And then you have Kramaric, who is now really a number nine. He's a hybrid between a number nine and a winger, so he will float around, he will drift wide, he will start as a winger even. He will be making those combinations. He can score goals. We've seen that he usually does. Towards the end of the season, he always goes up in form, and that's what usually happens with him. So hopefully he will get to that form now when we need him to be that. But no, to answer your question plainly, we don't really have a prolific number nine who can bang goal after goal every single game. We do have players for different situations. We do have players that can score goals, but Croatia are not a team that scores a lot. They've conceded 3 goals today, which usually doesn't happen. It doesn't happen to Croatia because Spain had 3 proper chances and they scored 3 goals.
The narratives on the social media or media about master classes and Spain being amazing and Croatia being awful, I don't think
Mhm.
any extremes actually are true if you look at the game and how football happens most of the time. But that said, I do want to come back to Spain and talk a little bit about them. There might be a feeling that, okay, this is a great start for Spain, and it is a great start.
Mm.
And no questions on that. And I guess they will qualify for the next round, given that Albania, they're going to probably win, right? Probably. So yes, round of 16 and so on and so forth. They'll proceed a little bit more. With Dilla Fuente, obviously we have a different setup and a different way of playing. But I still don't think this is a controlling midfield.
No, absolutely
This is not a controlling midfield. This is a transition midfield kind of a thing, right? And I do think you need some sort of a controlling game as the competition goes ahead. Up top, I think yes, Lamine and Nico do complement the holding of
not.
the and then dragging out markers, and that probably gives Morata a little bit of space.
I would agree. This was a win that I think should be praised. It's a 3-0 win against Croatia. That doesn't often happen. So I think, yes, it's praiseworthy, but at the same time, it's a warning because it showed so many flaws and lackings in the structure that Spain have currently. There was very little compactness across the thirds. They had maximum width for the fullbacks. They had centre backs wide. They had the first couple of lines were not compact. You could find space between the lines. You could run in behind the fullbacks as well. I feel like if they meet a France, if they meet an England, a Portugal, these teams will have the profiles to hurt them. They will have the profiles to rip them apart. And I feel like if this does not get fixed soon, it might turn very sour very quickly for Spain. They obviously have quality, as you said, Lico and Lamine. So I think there is a force there to be reckoned with. But at the same time, structurally, they've not really shown much. Even in the pressing, the counter pressing was quite good in the opening stages. But then at one point, once Croatia found their rhythm, retained the ball, they could dance around them a little bit and exploit that space in between those lines. You could see Kovacic carrying the ball almost across half of the pitch, and there was no one in that area to stop him. It was just Kovacic going with the ball forward. And luckily for Spain, Kovacic is not someone, especially if he's on his left foot, he's not someone who's going to threaten the goal. If that was Meyer, for example, or someone who actually has a shot from far, that could have been much, much worse for Spain because they allow those players too much space. And if you do that against an England with Bellingham in those areas, or with Foden in those areas, or against France with Mbappe and Dembele, you're not gonna do well, right? So I feel like Spain has to learn a lot from this game if they are to evolve and actually be one of the favorites that they're touted to be. But this performance would not really fill me with confidence if I was a Spanish supporter.
I would tend to agree. Yes, it was a great result, and I'm happy for Spain, mostly because half the Spain is the Barca players, and we are Barca. I felt good about that. But I wouldn't read too much into it. Like this was some amazing masterclass that just proved that Spain is going to dominate this tournament. I did feel that with not watching Nagelsmann's Germany, but that was against Scotland, so that also is. I want to see them against a really tough team to understand how well that team is playing. But they really looked drilled. They really looked sharp on that pitch. Tom, anything before we call it a day?
No, that's pretty much it. Check out the channel, check out the blog and the podcast. Sometimes life gets in the way. That's just how it is. But we'll be trying to cover the Euros as much as we possibly can, and hopefully you get some value from it as well.
So stay tuned, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Peace, Val Barca, and see you tomorrow on another game. Take care.